Welcome back, folks, for a quick speculation video on the tier 10 replacement for the FV4202. Now, if you haven't heard already, the FV4202, the tier 10 British medium tank, is going to be replaced by the Action Centurion, and it is going to be the new tier 8 premium tank for the British. So the stats of the Action Centurion has not been released yet, but I do know about the relative stats of the tank from armor values as well as the guns. So let's get a quick overview of the Action Centurion. So I gathered a lot of information about the Action Centurion 10 from the worldtankleaks.ru, and from this picture you can see that the Action Centurion is basically a Mark 10 version of the Centurion with a modified turret. Now, they originally planned on replacing this turret or substituting this turret for all the Centurion tanks in service, but it never went into production. So basically what this turret provides is more armor at the front and more gun depression because of the lack of a gun mantlet. Now, you do remove the gun mantlet obviously, so the gun could be easily damaged, so that's the trade-off. So from researching on Google Images as well as the Wikipedia obviously, I found the armor values of the Mark 10 Centurion. So basically, here's a diagram, but I collected everything into a small list, and I'm going to go over the main stats that I think is going to be for the Action Centurion at tier 10. So the top speed is going to be 40 km per hour, the same as the Centurion tanks at tier 8 and tier 9, so like the Mark 1 as well as the Mark 7/1. So pretty slow of a top speed, 40 km per hour. The main armament is 105mm L781 Royal Ordnance gun. So it's like the Centurion 7/1's gun, obviously, with the same penetration and damage for the APCR, HESH, and HE rounds. Now, it does have a rate of fire boost, obviously, but I do not know the rate of fire amount, so I cannot judge on that. This is only speculation, obviously. Accuracy is about 0.31 meters dispersion, which is pretty good, like the Centurion 7.1, obviously. Aim time is still about 2.1 seconds. Now, the hull armor is pretty interesting. I found out the Centurion Mark 10 has 155mm at the front. Slope backwards about 40-ish degrees or so. So you can look at this picture, but that's about 40-ish, 35 at best, something like that. So it's pretty well sloped at the front though. So, but the tracks are covering up the stuff, so it's about 40-ish. So it's like that. Don't look at the tracks. Don't look at the tracks, obviously. So it's like this. So that's probably the sloping. So that's about 40, 45-ish. But using an armor calculator, effective armor calculator, you can see that if we type in 40 degrees of angle with 155mm of frontal hull armor, I'm stuck at math. So we get 241mm of effective frontal armor. So that's pretty good. And the side of the armor is 90mm. But if you look at the diagram, it has a 6mm space armor, the side skirts, like all Centurion tanks at tier 8 as well as the tier 9 version. So there is a space side skirt that's 6mm alongside with the 90mm of side armor. So you can bounce some shots if you angle this tank, obviously. So that's pretty cool. And 70mm of hull armor at the rear. The turret armor is 240mm at the front, 125mm at the side and rear. So if you look at the turret in comparison to the current FV4202's turret, it has more armor at the front. So I have the FV4202, and it has, wait, why do I type a bunch of ones here? That's weird. So at the front of the FV4202, we have 196mm of frontal armor for the turret, whereas for the turret on the new Action Centurion, that thing has 240mm. So this thing will bounce some shots. Now, I do not know the cheek armor on the FV4202, obviously. So I do not know the cheek armor on this tank, but it has better armor in my opinion. It should have better armor. Now, comparing this photo to the tank inspector, you can see the cupola is still a big weak spot. It looks bigger on the FV4202 than on the Action Centurion. So, but it's still a big weak spot, and it's still at the right side of the tank, so you have to be careful about this weak spot. Now, however, the turret ring looks actually bouncier on the new Action Centurion. So you can see the little sloping on this bottom of the turret. So it's curved inwards. So that might bounce some shots. Whereas on the FV4202, it's like a cylinder. So it's pretty rounded. It's rounded, but it's still cylinder-ish. So you can still penetrate this turret ring and damage the turret. So yeah, that's kind of another weak spot on the FV4202. But the turret on here looks more rounded. So, but it does have this little weak machine gun port, so you can just penetrate through this machine gun port and whatnot. So yeah, this little weak spot, that might be a weak spot. Oh, it's not a machine gun port. It looks like a machine gun port on here, but it is actually a gun lodging axis. So basically what they do is they stick the gun into the turret and bolt it right here. So I think that's what they do. Right? At least that would, based on mechanical engineering perspective. So yeah, that's how the turret looks. So the main weakness is going to be the cheeks of this tank, obviously. Now, since this tank doesn't have a mantlet, it should have better gun depression than the Centurion tanks with a gun mantlet, obviously. So it should have about -10 degrees of gun depression. Whereas if you look up the Centurion 7/1, since this thing has a gun mantlet, it has about oh, it actually has 10 degrees of gun depression. No, does the Centurion 1 has less? Oh, okay. Alright. So it should have very good gun depression. I thought the mantlet would cover up the gun depression, but alright. So it should have better gun depression than normal, obviously. But it might have even 12 degrees of gun depression. So that's going to be pretty cool. Alright. But alright. But 20 degrees of gun elevation is pretty standard. View range is 410 meters, obviously. Radio range is about 750, standard. So the main difference between the Action Centurion, the Mark 10 Centurion with a special turret, in comparison to the FV4202, is that you have less armor for the Action Centurion. 241 millimeters effective armor to 283 millimeters of front for the FV4202. But you do have more turret armor for 240 millimeters in comparison to 196 millimeters. So this thing will be more in line with all the Centurions or all the tanks before it, like the Comet or the Centurion Mark 1 or the Centurion Mark 7/1. So whereas for the FV4202, that tank feels like it has better hull armor than the turret armor, so it goes counterintuitive for the British medium tank line. So it's kind of weird. So I think that's why they're switching it around or something like that. So in my honest opinion, this new Action Centurion or Centurion Mark 10 with a modified turret feels a lot more like the Centurion that you play at tier 8, or as well as the Comet. Obviously the Comet has a very good gun mantlet, as well as the Centurion 7/1. So it has less hull armor, but that should be for all Centurion tank in comparison to the FV4202. So been grinding the Centurion 1, and I've been grinding that tank, and it feels pretty good. It's probably the best tier 8 medium tank that I feel playing in comparison to the T-34-2 or the T-44. So I kind of like the Centurion, and this tank looks promising, looks really promising. But I hope you guys enjoyed this speculation video. Obviously it's just me nerding out about tanks and what I think about the armor coming up soon. But hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you guys for watching. Rate this video if you can, because that helps me a lot. Comment below what you think about this new Action Centurion that's going to be replacing the FV4202. And the FV4202 is going to be a tier 8 premium tank with a 20-pounder gun instead of the L7A1 105mm. So that's going to be the shift around. But that's alright, I guess. But it's alright, it's going to make more credits. So but other than that, thank you guys for watching, and subscribe to my channel. Subscribe to my channel for more of the leak info, as well as these speculation videos that I like to do. It's just me nerding out about tanks and stuff like that. But thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.